Hi everyone, my name is Timur Tuye. I am a civil servant and I work for the digital agency of the city of Ghent. I also work as a technical advisor for the Open and Agile Smart Cities Network, or OASC. Today I'm here to talk about MIMs. MIMs, or Minimum Interoperability Mechanisms. What are they and what can we use them for? We live in a very messy world in which different ICT systems don't always communicate with each other. This can be because they have very different features, but sometimes there's also commercial interests that impede exchange of data. We are trying to develop standards. Well, everyone is trying to develop standards that allow these systems to interact, but there are so many standards that sometimes it becomes very, very expensive to do a real integration. Nevertheless, there's always a minimal subset of data that can quite easily be exchanged through different easy mechanisms. That is why we want to introduce the MIMs. So how can we reduce the effort required to integrate these different sources and ICT systems? We define a set of very basic capabilities and standards a system should adhere to in order to be able to exchange the very minimal set of data that is required. Thereby, we adhere to two principles. We want it always to be a basic set, and we want it to be easy to understand what these mechanisms are. Second of all, you can only guarantee an as good as possible, or as good as it gets, exchange of data. This is a value proposition that is basically catered towards cities and communities, but also towards innovation consortia, businesses and policymakers. The value we want to provide is to make it really easy to exchange data, even though it might not be everything all at once. We basically present lists of standards, specifications and mechanisms within different domains that you can use, and we will also develop a marketplace in which people can contribute to different translator tools like mappers, transformers, and so forth. Now, how are these minimum interoperability mechanisms governed? So how are these MIMs organized and who governs them? MIMs are relevant in very different domains. That is why right now there is a set of 10 MIMs. In the future there might be more or there may be less. For example, the first MIM is very much tailored to context information. That means, how can you exchange context information within IoT ecosystems? The second MIM is underpinning most of the MIMs. It's about data models. Which language do you use, which terminology, which taxonomy and vocabularies. The third, in turn, is about contracts. How can you exchange data while catering to legal requirements or even financial transactions? The fourth is about trust and security. How can you make sure that your data is real, relevant, and up to date? There is a set of six more MIMs, but you can read all about those in the documentation. Now, how are they governed and who is governing them? Globally, OASC is a network of communities and cities, and it's really those cities that are governing the MIMs and the development of the MIMs. Within Europe, specifically, they are governed by the Living in the EU movement, more specifically the technology subgroup of the Living in the EU movement, where both cities, communities, regions, localities, but also supporters like businesses can contribute to the development of new versions of the MIMs. On an international level, we are working with the ITU to standardize the concept of a MIM. Just a concept, not each individual MIM, just the concept is being standardized in a standard called Y.MIM. Now, how are these MIMs actually structured? The Y.MIM standard provides a very clear overview of what comprises a MIM. The first level is to define the objective, what you want to reach with a MIM. The second is, what are the capabilities that are required to reach this objective? And this boils down to a set of very strict requirements. Well, not very strict, but strict enough to be able to understand how to exchange data on a very minimal level. This, in turn, leads to a set of specifications, standards, and mechanisms that can be used to transfer data from one system to another. There are interoperability mechanisms, and in the future we will also provide testing and validation methods for each of those MIMs. We provide an example of MIM 1 about context in the documentation.